All right, so we're in recording. So teach with Blackboard. Let's take a look at what today's agenda is going to look like. We're going to talk a little bit about user perspectives, just to get a little bit of the information that we were seeing when we first cut over into the perspective of going remote. So this happened at the end of spring after we had a little bit of a time to teach somewhat remote. It wasn't the prettiest, but we were able to get some perspectives from that. And from those perspectives, we were able to build some of the things that we've done from this point forward. But we've, of course, looked at many of what our peers are doing, looking at some other big gaps that needed to be filled. And we were able to build out a much more comprehensive look at how we can look at that fall semester and where we're going to be going from there. I want to talk just briefly about what Blackboard SaaS is, or Blackboard Cloud. We've been talking about that. It's just a quick overview, some dates that are going to be important coming up, and understanding what the heck that's all about. It's just some basic baselining on that side of the house. Then we're going to go into just what the video enhanced classroom is. So if you're teaching on site, what are you going to expect? What are some of the things that you might see when you step into the classroom, and how are you going to be able to teach using Zoom, Blackboard, all the different tools that are at your disposal? And then we're going to jump into the 8 guidelines for course design. I did this in the basics, and I'm going to keep hitting home on it. It's really important as we look forward to building these courses. How can we build them in such a way that students are going to be able to interact with them in a meaningful and in a way that they're going to come back routine and find the things that they're going to need to engage with. And then finally, we're going to go into any additional Q&A that might come up. I completely understand there's going to be more questions that this session is going to be able to answer. So please ask away as we go along, and we can follow that up with some future trainings. We have convocation coming up, and we'll definitely be using the feedback we're getting from these webinar series to be integrated into our future sessions. Now, this particular session is very nuts and bolts. I'm going to look at it from a technical standpoint. I'm going to acknowledge there's some pedagogical ways that you can approach some of the things that we need to do. But what we're looking for right now is to truly understand just how you use the technology. So really, this should be the transparent part once we start moving along. Denise is awesome. She's built a lot of great trainings. Also, Alexis as well. So Alexis and Denise have built a teaching self-paced course with some modules that you can jump into, really get the nuts and bolts of the academic pedagogical approach, how you can engage students, how to really think about teaching in a different way. So if you have not enrolled in that course, I really highly suggest you do. The login of Blackboard, you can get to that course. You'll go in there. It is a self-paced. It's about 10 hours of your time. And I believe the stipend is still available, Denise. I'm not sure if that, I guess the stipend.
No, that ended. I wanted to make sure folks didn't run out of time to complete it.
Yeah,
so
I think we did.
cut off it. But the course won't ever go away, so it can always be used as a reference.
Thanks, Denise. So let's jump in. Let's just hear what some of the faculty have been saying. So some of the colleagues out there have been saying some of these comments. I'm going to let you read a few of them. I bolded one of the ones that seemed to be pretty regular. Many were interested in how to effectively use Blackboard or Zoom. Some were also nervous about, how do you do this? I don't know what students are using to communicate with. Just being gentle with yourself and realizing there is going to be a smorgasbord of technology out there, and you're not going to be able to use it all. You're going to just use pieces of it that are going to really work and align with your instruction. And as you go along, you can add more to your toolkit, but don't take too much because it's going to really stress you out. So it is important to think that I'm going to show you, and many of these sessions will show you a whole bunch of things you can use. We are definitely not telling you to use it all at once. What are the students thinking? Students also are having the same kind of things. First of all, they're just hoping that they can support. Blackboard has had some times where it was not as stable as you might expect when we have a bunch of people jumping in the system. Unfortunately, the timing of that is never great. So we are going to talk about that because we have done things to improve the stability, actually major things to improve that. A lot of the students just want communication on a regular basis. They need some expectations being set, understanding what they're supposed to do when you get into a course. So if they're not able to talk to you directly and you have some materials online, they should still be able to engage with those materials and figure out what they should be doing, how they should be moving forward. They don't necessarily need you there 24/7 to micromanage how they can move forward. We want to create those opportunities in our courses as we move along. All right, so let's take a look at what Blackboard SaaS is. Moving along with our agenda, Blackboard in the cloud, or SaaS. SaaS is an acronym for software as a service. So right now we've had an on-premise version of Blackboard, meaning that we run 4 servers. We deliver Blackboard from our on-campus iteration, and up to this point, it's worked fairly well. We were really tested on the sustainability of that and the ability for us to scale that instance right when we went to this remote instruction right prior to the summer. There were some issues. We noticed that Blackboard is a little wonky for about a week or so there. We were able to get that shored up. We're still on our on-prem Blackboard, but what we're looking to do is we're moving in the cloud. So what that does is it moves the management of the technical end into a cloud instance where Blackboard is able to scale, add new servers as needed, be able to remove the necessity for any kind of downtime moving forward. Now, if the entire internet goes down or we have a really big thing that's catastrophic across the world, of course, Blackboard may go down. But in this instance, the idea is we're taking a step forward to solidify our ability to leverage Blackboard. And Blackboard is going to be running some of the technical backend here. So this is a major step for us. We're investing a lot of money to make that happen. Now, we're not spending quite extra money, so to speak. We're just transitioning money we would have spent in staff and other kind of server maintenance into the licensing fee for our Blackboard. Just so you're aware, that downtime will happen on August 9th through the 14th. It is not the most opportune time for that to happen, especially right before semester. Unfortunately, that is the window that we've had between summer and fall that we could use. Otherwise, we're thinking until the end of the year, which I don't think was the right move. And also, we really want to make sure that we're ready to go for fall 2020. So when we come back up on the 14th, you're going to be logging into a brand new version of Blackboard. Now, from the look of it, though, it will look very much what you're accustomed to today. So it's not going to look different per se. There will be a few extra tools and other things that are in there. Looks like Denise has a question.
I just want to throw something out. I just put on an announcement that you'll see in Thursday's digest for Nearpod training the week of the 9th when Blackboard is down. So if you signed up for a Nearpod account or you're interested in learning, I thought that would be a great time to move forward in your planning for fall when you can't get to Blackboard. So be on the lookout for those.
All right. Cheryl, did you have another question?
Yes, I need to create the syllabus in Blackboard, and I'm wondering, do I have the opportunity to do that while Blackboard is down, like offline, and then import the online?
Yes, and we can definitely kind of go through that. There's different ways you can import a syllabus. There's an integrated syllabus that's in Blackboard.
That's the one.
Okay, so you plan on using that one. So that
yes,
you would not be able to leverage until Blackboard is up. It is a Blackboard specific kind of thing. So unfortunately, you would have to either do that before or after. Otherwise, just attaching a syllabus can definitely be done after. Or before.
Okay.
All right, so any other questions right off the bat? Looks like Brooke may have a question.
Yes. So my name is Brooke, and this question is for Denise. Denise, you had an echo in your sound. And because of that echo, I really could not catch what you said. I think it had something, I don't know what you said. So could you say it, I don't know, more slowly?
Yeah, one thing that Denise had mentioned is that there is going to be some Nearpod training during the downtime. So Nearpod is an engagement platform that's more of like a slide deck that you can have students participate in, kind of clicker questions, different kind of ways that you have an integrated, more engaging slide deck. So during that week of downtime, if you're looking to kind of continue pushing forward on more professional development opportunities, that Nearpod will be available at that time. All right, so I'm going to continue forward, and we're going to continue with the next step. So when you step into the classroom, as we get into the classroom, you will see some new things. Across campus, there is distancing happening in many of the classrooms. We've integrated what we're calling an enhanced Zoom classroom. So what that is you can see in this photo, I only have like 1 or 2 photos here, but there's a camera that's now attached to a majority of the desks. That's on that right-hand side. It's a little bit of just a webcam, similar to what you probably have in your homes right now. And there is also a red camera, that is a dock camera, that is sitting on the desk. Those are the 2 new enhancements for the rooms. What those will allow you to do is not only broadcast yourself while you're in the classroom, but able to do notes or project to remote participants and participants that are in the room something that you may be writing on a sheet of paper. So kind of think of this as a replacement for a whiteboard or a chalkboard, one of those different items. And I'm actually going to demo that in today's session, just so you can get an idea of what that looks like. I have one of these webcams here, so we'll be able to check that out. This is just a quick perspective of what you might see in that classroom. So because it's going to be very difficult to write on a whiteboard and project that to remote participants, we've decided to take on that dot cam. So if you are in the room, you're going to be projecting it on the screen in the room if it has a screen and projection system, and you can see everything that's being put on that dot cam, as well as being able to show it to anybody that may be remote. Now, we're not saying don't use the blackboards or the whiteboards or anything that are in the rooms. What you can do is use that for your face-to-face courses. The people that are going to be in that classroom may be able to do that. Just note that remote participants will not be able to see that board. We've done a copious amount of testing with the webcams, and unfortunately, they just do not pick it up crisp enough. The lighting is too inconsistent for us to really think that's a viable option, and we just don't want students getting frustrated. So this is probably the best step that we can take forward on such a short notice. We realize that some of the options that we are putting out there are probably not be the full enterprise grade solution that we would hope to put, but this has got us there for a majority of our classrooms across campus. And as we look into future semesters, we're looking to expand more of our enterprise solutions into full Zoom rooms with fully installed point tilt Zoom cameras and other things like that. All right, let's jump into a little bit of Blackboard. So this is a quick review, but when you get Blackboard shells at the beginning of the semester, you're gonna get a shell that already has some things populated. This is a standard blank default shell that you get when you walk into a course. And so what you're gonna get is not only just some ideas as how you might structure your course, you're gonna have some additional links to services that are available. Research guides being one of those. The library has various librarians very specific to different disciplines that will be writing out these research guides that are very pertinent to your particular discipline. What that link will do, it will link you directly to those research guides. I don't know if there's any more you want to talk about that with Alexis, or if there's any other plugs you'd want to mention.
Yeah, I'll just in broad strokes, like Adam said, there's those two links. The library website will take them to the library homepage, and then the research guides will take them to one of three places. As you may know, we do have subject guides for every subject taught at the university, as well as some general research tips and tricks guides. And in addition to that, course guides, they get even more specific than the subject guides. So if you have a course that has a subject guide that is associated with it, and I look at this by looking at where your course is, what department your course is in, and what the subject matter is, we link it to that. If you already have a course guide set up with your librarian with more specific resources, it is linked to that. If you're teaching in a department that might not have a course guide that fits it, say your course is registered in the honors program or the English Language Institute, then it directs to a general research tips and tricks guide. So no matter where your class is registered, there's going to be a link there that'll get you some, hopefully at least slightly specialized library assistant and contact information for librarians to help your students. Thanks for the opportunity to say that, Adam.
No problem. Thank you, Alexis. I appreciate that. They said it much more eloquently than I could. So looking into it, there are a few other resources. You'll notice there's a tutoring services. So there's some online tutoring services now being offered by the institution, and that is across all tutoring services. So that will link students directly to those resources. There's an instructor resources as well that just holds on to some additional details that you may want. It is completely locked out so students can't see it. So it's just invisible to them. And then there's some tech requirements, things that you may need to utilize in the course. So those just come default packed with the course. You can add to those if there's different tech requirements. For instance, if you're in an engineering degree and you had a different platform that you're leveraging, you could put that in your tech requirements for your course. Now, everything above those lines, though, is really customizable for the faculty member. We're not going to step in and tell you exactly how to build your course. Every discipline, every particular course is going to have its own flavor and its own thing that's going to need. Now, we built this based off Quality Matters kind of standards. There's different practices that we utilize to help stage this out. So there are research-informed ways that we've kind of laid this out. So it falls in line with a lot of those practices that we've researched. So we do want to go through some of these today. That's what we're going to do in just a moment here, and we're going to show you how to use some of those. But before we do that, I did want to go through the 8 principles of the shell. So I did mention a few of these things. We're building with the teaching presence. This is a big one, and I almost feel like I should pitch to Denise right now to really kind of talk about teaching presence in the course, but this is a part of a lot of the resources and insights that we've already been giving in the pedagogical side. But building a course really well also enhances that teaching presence.
That's where your teaching presence starts. Your students feel it before they even come in contact with you most of the time through your welcome message and through the way the course is organized and laid out for them. So that's your first chance to really put a good face on for them.
One of the kind of examples that I've helped myself kind of go with, I worked in the web development field for a number of years prior to working in higher education. But one of the things that a lot of the clients and I would kind of help them with that presence is, have you ever gone to a really poor website that just is not laid out well? How confident are you in that to make a purchase on that website? How confident are you the resources and information there are going to be the actual right information? And you're making that judgment just off of how it's laid out, how it looks. And it may, anecdotally, it may be a really good site, but, on a first impression, it may not have what you're looking for. So that teaching presence helps build that confidence up. It helps you really feel as though, okay, I'm going to engage with this on a weekly or if not daily basis as a student. So you want to spend that time to build it out so that when those students come to engage with that, they're able to find the information they need and they're going to have that confidence in there. Again, I did talk about that it's built with standards-informed practices. There are a lot more standards and best practices that you can integrate in there. We just did the bare minimum just to really kind of get you launched out there, but do not have to use all the specific things that we had put into those courses. It's easily to customize depending on your needs. We talk about course modules, but they could be topics, they could be weeks, they could be a lot of different things. And so we just wanted to make sure that you know that great courses share some of these common design features because they are best practices. They have been found out over the time that we've looked at that. So let's just quickly run through the 8 guidelines that we have looked at. And this is based off Quality Matters and other standards and best practices. I'm not going to spend too much time because we've already done this in the basics class, but it is a really good thing. And I will be able to share this content as we go forward. So you want to choose a meaningful organizational scheme. So you want to break your content into chunks. We talk about this. There's some first initial things when you get in the course. You want to know where to go when you first get in. You want to have a get started or some sort of direction. But as you start going through, you want your weekly topics or just your topics to have a consistency as you go through there. Organize it in a way that's easily engageable by your students. You also want to use specific and accurate language to label menu items and files. So as you start your labeling convention, there may be ways that you label it that you know. Maybe there's an acronym that you use. Maybe write it out and then put the acronym off to the side. Make sure you're using terms that can't be confused. You may have 2 terms in your navigation and you're not sure, okay, is resources or additional documents the one I should be going to? It should be one or the other. You really don't want to use those ambiguous kind of terms. And then descriptive enough that students can really understand what we're about to click into. I can't tell you how many times that I've seen just a document that has some crazy weird number, letter, name that's just dropped into a Blackboard course with 0 context. Once you do that, you're able to, the students are not going to necessarily want to just click a document to open it up. What you can do is put a really nice name, put a short description, maybe with some context of why you'd even want them to look at that document. And that's on every single thing that you label in your course. This one's a big one. You really want to be consistent. So when we talk about this in our courses, consistency is going to give the students something to come back to every week and have these expectations set. So a great example that I see is when you start with your first course module, you may start with a reading. You may follow it up with a short video to watch, and then a short kind of check your knowledge. Some sort of quiz or something like that, very low stakes, maybe not even worth points. And then you go into the full assignment for that class, and then a discussion. Maybe if you set that out in the first week, you're going to repeat that every week from their point forward. Now, you may not have a video every week, you may not have some sort of a quiz every week, but you keep that same consistency in how you set those things out. So as students come back into the course, they are able to understand, okay, this week I got to get my reading done before I can go into this next step. You'll notice that I have these extra titles in here. I'm sharing, I'm using Denise's technique of only showing my slide deck so I can edit it as we go along. But you want to provide direct access to frequently used items. So a great example is Zoom. We're looking at using Zoom on a week-to-week basis. So if you have that in there and you're planning on doing some synchronous sessions, let's put that Zoom link right in there. Maybe there's a third-party tool that you're using completely outside of Blackboard. That is a big link to put in the Blackboard. Think of Blackboard as kind of that first stop for all your students. We're not telling you that all the instruction and teaching happens within the confines of Blackboard. That's just where you meet your students. That's where you can communicate with them. There's going to be a lot of other tools that you're going to be plugging in there. Denise talked about Nearpod, for example. We do have integrations in Blackboard, but if there was some reason you wanted to directly link out to a tool, you'd want to do that in that main menu. Okay, limit the levels of navigation to 3. This is a big one. You have pretty much a blank canvas, so to speak, inside your course. And so you can put folders and folders and folders, but the deeper you get, the much more difficult it is going to be to navigate. So you're going to say, like, limiting it to 3 or less is going to be much more consistent for your students and much easier to find. Visual cues. Those are dividers, they're bullets, there's maybe some imagery that you can use. Anything to really build hierarchy in your course is going to help the students navigate the course. One thing that I can kind of bring in from the web development world is that when you're working in online platforms, no one reads everything they see on the screen. They scan. They're looking for different things, different dividers, different pieces of hierarchy, and certain terms are going to kind of pop out to them. So if you see a line that's a divider, they're likely going to look right below that line, that first item. Things that you're going to want to keep your eyes on as you keep going through that course. Provide a starting point for the course. Imagine yourself stepping into the course for the first time. Now you have all these links onto the side. You saw that default navigation. Yours would probably be much bigger. Where do you start? Typically, the announcements are the first thing that show up on that course itself. The announcements are your pin board. That is what's there for your class, just to say, here's some communication, this is what's happening this week, this is what's happening this day. That's typically not the best starting point when you need to start engaging with the content. It's great to have as the first item you see in the course, but make sure you have like a getting started or a start here or a click here. We don't care what you call it, but give some sort of direction there. We've called it getting started in our templates. And then finally, you want to get input from others. Don't just do this kind of in your own silo. Go ahead and talk to your peers. If you have a trusted colleague that you want to show you for your class, let's have them look at that. We're more than happy to take a look at, give you our 2 cents on that. Share it with others and gauge those improvements, and then share with us as well. There's been a lot of times that somebody will share with even an instructional designer or another colleague, and we're like, that is an amazing idea. We're going to integrate that as we go forward. So it's really just getting these great ideas out there. No one of us is going to know the best way to do this. We can give you the best way that we know how you can approach it based off the standards and experiences that we have. I'm going to take this moment just to do a quick pause before we jump into Blackboard and fully. Is there any questions? So Brooke, you asked that how do we find an instructional designer? So Denise, myself are the 2 instructional designers on campus. You can share some of this information. We're in the midst of our big webinar series this week, next week, and we've been doing as much as we can to cast our net to get as many people into these sessions. As we move forward, we can have shorter consultation periods, 15, 20 minutes, to really just take a look at what we have in those classes and help advise you. This time of year, we're a hot commodity in terms of being able to have our time taken up in certain meetings on one-on-one. So these bigger sessions really help us out to be able to get this content out to everyone. But please send us some more information of what you're looking for, and we can definitely set up a 30-minute with you. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to log in. I'm going to put my information up on the board if you want to jot any of this down. So I'm our Director of Academic Technology and Client Services. So we work with a lot of the different academic side of the technology house. So that's our help desk, that's our multimedia installation services, our technicians, as well as our instructional technology department. So as we move forward, we're going to jump into Blackboard. So you can follow along. Sometimes it's a little difficult to follow along if you don't have 2 screens. but I'm gonna share my screen. Give me a minute to get in Blackboard, or at least I'll show you how to get in. All right, so here we go. Is everyone seeing at least our web page at the moment? Awesome. Okay, so the first step to getting into Blackboard is just knowing where to go from the get-go. So if you're at the CSU-Pueblo website, let's say you're at the home page of the website, pretty much any page that you see will have this white bar at the top. There is a faculty and staff link that you can click. Once you click on that link, you're going to be able to get into our faculty staff portal, which is going to have a lot of different resources about things going on campus. But this is where you're going to click that Blackboard link. I'm just giving this as a big heads up, because as we look forward to this transition, this link is going to change. So if you bookmark Blackboard, or if you have Blackboard that you're linking to from a different resource, the URL might change a little bit. So a good practice is always go here if you're for some reason not able to get to Blackboard. Once you get to Blackboard, you're going to notice it's going to load us some of that information there. Right now we have a kind of a countdown that's happening on the screen. You'll notice that there's also some of our sessions that we're talking about. So that Teaching and Learning Pro Dev series, you may have seen that. There's different information about our downtime. And there's also this, the faculty opportunity. This is the teaching and online hybrid course I was talking about. So if you'd like to click on that, you'll be able to get into that course. All right, so let me log into Blackboard and we'll get going. So it looks like, yeah, there was a question from Chris. We do have a lot of videos on the nuts and bolts of Blackboard. I tried to build that in, and so they're little bite-sized chunks. So those are available on our website. They're on our Center for Teaching and Learning website, which we'll be able to also offer near the end of this session. All right, so to make sure we're on point, we've already gone through the basics of this. Now, to follow along with this, if you've not done a basic session, I suggest that you take a look at that. You'll still be able to follow along with some of the things that we're doing today. It's just that it may not be as intuitive until you've gone through some more of the basics. But when you get to this screen, this is your dashboard where you're going to see everything that is available on your Blackboard. So if you have multiple courses you're teaching, you'll see that there. One of the first pro tips that I give you, which I did give in the basics course, was this quickly link. If you're looking to quickly, the pun, to turn on specific courses, you can use this. This is a third-party tool we integrated to make turning on and off classes very easy. So a course, for example, if you look in my list on this left here, you'll notice that this Fall Nursing 207 course says not currently available. That's not currently available to students, but completely available for me. So if I wanted to turn it on, I would be able to go over here, click this button, turn on that course, and the course is turned on. Same thing for sending emails and other things. You can do that en masse. If you needed to post an announcement in multiple courses at once, quickly is the way to go. If for some reason you needed to go remote for a couple weeks, you needed to send out a blast to all your classes, you can easily go and select the classes you'd like to send that announcement to and set it up, send it out. Communication is going to be a big tool as we move forward inside Blackboard. So using the tools that are available are going to be one of those first tips that I look about in those courses. All right, let's jump into a course and start talking about the differences between the sections. So since this is an advanced course, I'm going to delete this link that I already had in there. And we're going to start it all over again. So once you get your course, this is what it's going to look like. You're going to step into a course that already has some information already populated. The very first thing that you see is an announcement. You can just delete that announcement if you don't want it and you want to write your own announcement. Totally fine. We just wanted to give you an example of how an announcement might look when you get into the course. If you want to use it, it's a great way to get started. One thing that's really cool that we did integrate with the announcement, which is somewhat of a pro tip, is it loads my name. So because I'm logged in as Adam, it's going to say, Dear Adam Pocious. So if you're logging into your class, it's going to say your name. One of the things is if you click this drop down arrow and you hit edit, you're going to get dropped into the course. You're going to notice there's this weird thing with @ symbols, X's, and all these other little deals. If you were to copy starting from that first @ symbol and ending on that last @ symbol, if you copy that, you can place that strategically in different pieces of your course, and it will have the name of the user that's logged in. It'll display the username on those sections. So that's a quick pro tip. There's a whole bunch of other different things that you can utilize within Blackboard to load data that the student might have. It makes it feel much more customized. Imagine a student logging into your course and being like, wow, it's written to me directly. That's cool. I feel like I'm resonating with the course already. You would be able to go in here, make some edits, do some different things within this announcement screen. All right, first thing that I had on our agenda to really cover though in this course is how to do recording and posting class meetings. This is probably one of the big ones. So if you're planning on doing synchronous Zoom sessions that are gonna be with face-to-face students and remote students, or maybe it's just a completely synchronous session, this is the tool that you're gonna wanna do. If you take anything away from this session, this is probably the big one that you're gonna wanna know. First off, you will have to have some sort of a Zoom account. If you don't have a licensed Zoom account, you can set up a ticket with our help desk. They're already been informed. They'll get it directly to the gentleman that will get your account set up for you. We're using our CSU-Pueblo.edu email addresses to get up these Zoom accounts. So what you're gonna get is a fully fledged Zoom account that will allow up to 300 participants, and you'll be able to use it for the duration of the fall semester and likely beyond that. So how do you get Zoom in there? First off, before we had the integration set, we did create a live video session info button. So if you were to click into that, it just pre-populates how you might put in some information. You could go into Zoom. There are some Zoom 101 sessions that we already have done, and we can definitely point you to some of those videos that we already have out there on how Zoom works. But what you would do is you would get your Zoom URL, and you can edit this link by highlighting to the right, hitting the drop down and hitting edit, and then just adding your link into this link area here, filling in the details of date and times when you might be leveraging that link. Now that method was gonna work if we didn't integrate. But in this case, we fully integrated Zoom, so we can delete this. So I'm gonna just hit this drop down arrow. I'm gonna hit delete my video session, remove that completely from this Blackboard course, and we're gonna start fresh. So when I deleted that section, it deleted all the things that were in that folder. We're gonna start from scratch. First step is you're gonna highlight this button that's in the upper left-hand corner of your content menu. In the upper left-hand corner of that content menu, it's really gonna show off, and I wonder if I could zoom in because this might be a little difficult for you to see. Zoom in just enough so that it shows in the desktop view. So here we are, there's a button that's in the upper left-hand corner of your navigation. Now this button is gonna offer a lot of different things. So you see all these folders, all this different structure that's a little bit below this. These are gonna be the ways that you add content area, you add different tool links, you add different course links, all the things that we talked about in those guidelines. The big one that we're gonna look at today is tool link. When you click on tool link, it's gonna bring up this ability to put something in. In the type, if you click type and you scroll to the bottom, you're gonna find something called Zoom Meeting. You click Zoom Meeting. You can name it whatever you like. I'm just gonna be really generic and call it Zoom Meeting, or actually let's call it Zoom Classroom. That sounds a little bit better if I was gonna instruct that. I wanna make sure I click the available to users box, and then I'm gonna hit submit. Honestly, that is all you're gonna have to do to integrate Zoom into your classroom. Not a lot of steps. Aside from having a Zoom account, now what I can do is I'm gonna pull this Zoom meeting up. I can just put it in this course menu wherever we might need. And then the next step is I click on that Zoom classroom. As long as you have a Zoom account, a CSU-Pueblo.edu account, it's instantly gonna drop you into Zoom. You're gonna be in your Zoom account without having to log in, without having to do anything. You're able to instantly schedule that meeting right then and there. Schedule your meeting. We definitely suggest putting a passcode or a waiting room on that meeting. That is discussed in the Zoom 101 training. In this particular one, I'm gonna put a waiting room and I'm gonna hit save. And now I have scheduled a meeting for my class. I'm gonna click up on my class up at the top. If I click back into my Zoom classroom, you're gonna see that that meeting that I just scheduled is ready to go. Students would log into your class, click on Zoom meeting, and go directly to this page and be able to join any of the meetings that you set up here. Now, if you record that meeting, we're gonna be turning on cloud recording in the next couple of weeks here. When you record that meeting, it will automatically be recorded. And once you stop that meeting, it will be in the cloud. So when students revisit this page later, they can click on cloud recordings. They'll see the cloud recording that's been recorded by a Zoom, and they'll be able to watch it. Now, right now, we're up against kind of a capacity issue in terms of how much that cloud recording that can be done. So we're looking at ways to expand that. Provisionally, we're thinking that it may be only available for 15 days. We totally realize that's not a big amount of time, but it is 2 weeks. It gives you enough time that you can download your recordings if you'd like to transition it to another resource like YouTube, or at least just have it for posterity. And it gives those students 2 weeks to look at that recording. Now, if for some reason we're able to expand that, that might go a little bit longer. We're really hoping that we can expand that, but just keep in mind that 15 days might be the only availability for those recordings as we move forward. So that is it with the Zoom aspects of it. Very easy to implement in your course, just requires having that Zoom account. Next up is posting instructional materials. What is the best way to post instructional materials? Well, one of the first things that you may be accustomed to doing, or may not, is going into a section of your course and adding content. So right now I have this course modules on the left-hand side of the screen. Course modules is just a way that we're suggesting that you put all the content of your course in a course module area and then build it out into folders. So you can see already there's some information that's hidden from students that just kind of help direct you on how to build course modules. Again, that teaching and learning course will also cover some of this. But one of the things that you can do is you go to this build content button. The build content button is one of the biggest ones. It looks like it was a little hard to see. Let me see if I can zoom in. I know it's going to be difficult on this screen to see some of this. So let's see if I can zoom it in just a little bit. There we go. So this build course content, it has a lot of different things in here. So if you have integrations, for instance, they may be in this lower area. There was discussion of a syllabi earlier and how you integrate it with Blackboard. This syllabus here is very specific to Blackboard. It doesn't mean this is the only way you attach a syllabus. If you want to build an integrated syllabus that kind of ties into assignments and different things, you can use that. Sometimes you already have it just drafted out as a document. You would just create the item and you would attach your document into the course. And then there's also a few other things. One of the big ones is our YouTube tool. With the YouTube video, you're able to go in, search YouTube, and integrate it into your course directly without having to think about much. Now, sometimes that tool is not as effective as you'd like, and you can still just go to YouTube by default, go into an item, and build a video in that course. This is going to be probably your biggest home as far as adding content to your course goes. Item is the biggest one that I see in use. There are some other methods that you can use, though. I use Google Docs for a lot, for instance. So sometimes just attaching a PDF document in my course isn't effective enough. So sometimes I'll post a link to a Google Doc or something like that. So it looks like Denise had a quick question there.
I just wanted to mention really quickly the difference between item and page. Anything you post in item, when you type in the description box, all of that text shows up on the front page. So if you've got a large amount of stuff to communicate, it's better to make it as a blank page versus item. It'll look cleaner for your students.
Thanks, Denise. So I see that a lot of the items are typically the things that might be a document that needs like a sentence or two of context, but if you are looking to build a full-on content in Blackboard, that blank page will definitely do you good. One thing that's a great tip is if, let's say you had 20 documents, okay? 20 documents you need to integrate into your course. You could individually go to build content, click on the item, scroll down, browse your computer, find those documents each and every time. That is one way you could do that. Another way that you can do it is you notice that there's this browse course button or browse cloud storage. Now we're not using the cloud storage, so you can kind of forget about that one right now, but this browse course button can be very handy. What you can do is, I'm going to cancel out. If you scroll down on your menu and you went down to this thing called course or content collection, if you click into that, there should be some weird course ID. It should say your course name. It should have a number in there. But if you click into that folder, what this is this is going to be all the content that you integrate into your course. One thing that you can easily do is if you took those 20 documents and you highlighted them all in your computer, you right-clicked on them and zipped them up into a compressed folder, what you can do is you can upload that folder directly into Blackboard. You can upload 20 files quickly into Blackboard. They'll all drop into this folder. And then what you're able to do is you're able to go to any of those areas that you want to add a document that's in your Blackboard course, click on this item, add your item. So if I put item here, for instance, scroll down and I hit browse course now, what it's going to do, it's going to take you into your course and you're going to see all those items. So let's say all 3 of these items I wanted to be available for my students. I just click the checkbox now, I hit submit, and all those items are now going to be attached to that item and you're going to be in your course. Now, that's really handy when you have a lot of documents. Now, of course, it did not do this based off my guidelines. I would have put a much better title and a little bit more of a description there, but just kind of illustrating how quickly you can jump into those different areas there. So I do have a thing that was asked, if you're adding a PowerPoint lecture with voice recording, it's 2 size. So what is the optimal size for recordings? Or actually any file size in the system? I think the current limit is around 50 megabytes or 100 megabytes at most. So we are not adding direct videos in here. We're saying put those in like YouTube. We would think that potentially with your PowerPoint lecture slides, one way you could do it is you could just start your own Zoom call. You could go ahead and play through all those slides by recording them and create an actual video file instead of a PowerPoint lecture slides, and then uploading that into YouTube. Now that's something that's a little outside of the scope of showing you in this session, but something that we could definitely do with you on a one-on-one consult on how that might work. But that's probably the best strategy to get those video files in there. That way there's not a hit to the system, and it's gonna play really consistently for all users that might download it in that PowerPoint. All right, so one of the next things is, how do you copy information from older courses to a new course? So by scrolling down on this left-hand menu, you're gonna have a lot of different options in this course management menu. Now, one of the big ones is your package and utilities menu. If you go into package and utilities, you're gonna notice you have some options. So these options are deleting items. So for instance, if you brought over a lot of content, you needed to delete it, you can click this bulk delete. Now be careful when you use this, because there's no way to get this information back if you use bulk delete. But you can go in and completely kill an area within Blackboard to be able to remove it if needed. But another thing that's really handy in this packages and utilities is this course copy. So what you want to do is, let's say this was my old course. You'd want to start in your old course. You start in your old course, you click course copy. It's going to bring up this information. Typically, it's going to already put it as an existing course, so it shouldn't even give you an option at this point. It's going to say, hey, you want to do a course copy and you want to copy it into an existing course. Right below here, it's going to be asking for a destination course ID. Now, most people don't know what that is. So they're not going to know, okay, I got to type something in here. What you just need to do is hit browse, and you got to make sure your pop-up blocker is turned off to be able to do this step. And then once you click browse, it's going to show you all the courses that you're enrolled in. You pick the course that you'd like to copy to, you hit submit, and it's going to throw in that course ID automatically for you. And then below, you select the options and the areas that you're going to copy forward. So I can hit select all, copy everything forward, and all these items are now going to show up in your new course. It does queue it. It could take up to an hour or two for all the courses to copy through, but it's a really handy way to move things forward. Now, sometimes people don't want everything copied over. Maybe you just want pieces and parts of a course, and holistically copying it would just really ruin your world because you've already built some things in. Well, let me tell you this. Let's say if you had an assignments folder that had some integrated assignments in Blackboard, you want to copy that over. If you just copied assignments, you would just get the folder. You may not get what's inside of it. If you've used Blackboard assignments, for instance, we know that by putting a Blackboard assignment in there, it's also dynamically linked to the Grade Center. So you would have to click assignments and have to then scroll down and make sure that you select your Grade Center columns and settings. As long as you selected both of those, it holistically takes all the assignments and all the references to that Grade Center. Now, just keep in mind that if you are copying your Grade Center over, it's going to copy all the old kind of columns that you had available in your Grade Center. Now, one common question that comes up is, well, is it going to copy all my other student data? Is it going to copy all the other things that I did in my old course? It will not copy that information over. There is an include enrollments in this copy that you do, but we suggest never never clicking that include enrollments, because you would pull all your old enrollments from your old course forward. It may actually not even be in your version of it, so just keep that in mind. But really what you're looking to do is you want to make sure that you're copying anything over that has references to the Grade Center, that you want to keep that in there. So discussion boards is another example. If you're taking the discussion boards over, it usually has grading that's associated with it. So you would want to take that over as well. I know we're running real short on time here. I think we have just a couple more minutes to get this thing completed. So I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel because I don't actually want to copy anything over in here. The last couple areas that I really wanted to talk about was just where the grading center is and some of the additional tools. This is definitely not a session where I'm going to have enough time to go through the full grading center, but I did want to show you a couple quick highlights. So if you click on grading center or grade center and you click on full grade center, it's going to open up your grade center. You're going to have a lot of information that you can input in here. But one of the hot buttons to know about is this manage button. When you highlight it, you can go down to this thing that says column organization. By clicking on column organization, it opens a different viewpoint of your grade center. So you kind of can get this holistic view of the grade center. You can kind of see all the columns that are in there. You're able to move the columns and reorder your grade center, which is a big deal once you start adding things into it. You can also en masse start applying categories to different columns if you're doing like weighted grades or things like that. And one of the newer features, which is great but also scary, is the ability to delete multiple columns. This is a big button that they've asked for in Blackboard, but you used to have to do it as a one-by-one basis, but you can delete columns en masse from this piece. So with great power comes great responsibility. Make sure you're deleting things that will not be forgotten or needed in the future. So within the Grade Center, the only other area that I really want to just point your attention to is in this reports area, there is this thing called a view grade history. There have been a few incidents where a faculty member may have accidentally deleted a grade, or there's something that's happened in the course and you just need a reference point to a grade that was put in there that may have been deleted. Well, you have a reference of everything that's ever been done in this Grade Center that you can look up, and you can see all the grades have been entered, changed, and removed. So even if a user is completely purged out of Blackboard, it would show the grade history still for that user in this course. Just keep that in mind. That's a great place to take a look at utilizing some of the things in the Grade Center. Now, again, there's a lot more to unpack in that Grade Center, other things that we can talk about at another time. The only last thought that I would leave you with is there is a work offline button. This work offline button gives you the ability to download your Grade Center. So if there's an instance where you just really need to see your Grade Center as an Excel spreadsheet, you can do that here. It will give you a few different options on how you download that Grade Center spreadsheet. Now, if you intend to re-upload the grade sheet into Blackboard again, you are going to have to make sure that you do not change the format that you download it out as. It downloads it as an XLS file, which is an older version of Excel. So newer versions have a little X at the end of that as well. You have to maintain the old format because there's all kinds of coding and other things that are going to associate with Blackboard when you pull it back in. But there have been faculty that will download the grades, manually put them in through the Excel, and then re-upload it using the upload button. Great tools to be able to leverage in that system. So the last parting thoughts that I want to like to leave you with today is ways that you communicate with your students, the most effective areas to look at. Number one, using your create announcement button and using that on a cadence of probably a day or every couple days, making sure you're putting some sort of presence in your course. This is that thing we talked about at the beginning. You want to have a presence. You want to show that you are there and you're looking at what your students are sending out. So set that policy. Typically 48 hours to 24 to 48 hours is my window that I try to make sure that I have a response to any student that emails me or anybody that emails me. But from here, what's cool is when you create an announcement, you're pinning it to the course. You put in a subject, you put in some content, but a little bit lower, you can send that email as well. So it sends it, it puts it in the course, it sends an email to everyone, really good spread to everyone within the course of that message you're sending out. Another tool is to also use, there's a couple ways to get to it, but if you go down, there's this thing that says send email. It's in your navigation menu by default. If you click on it, it's gonna allow you to send email, somewhat like any kind of email that you might find with all different users, groups, all students, anybody within your course, or even down to selected users. So if you select single users, you find the user you'd like to select or multiple users. You put them in the selected column. You write out your email much like you would. You can also click a button to send it to yourself. You submit that, it sends an email to everyone in your course. I already had mentioned the Quickly version that was at the very front of the course. That was one of those areas that you can do that as well. One of the last sections that's not quite a direct communication in terms of sending an email, but is your discussion forums. We typically build a general course questions that are in your course. So this helps other students answer questions as well. Have some of the peers engage with each other. So they may be able to put some question in there and this other student might see it right off the bat. You do have to have presence in there. You do have to help kind of guide that along, but that's another area where communications can happen. So general course questions, a student might click into that course or a user, and they would be able to create a thread with a topic or an idea, and other people can comment and discuss things in that thread. So I know I got really close on time. I'm just a minute over there. Is there any other questions, any other insights that anybody may want to ask today that I can help out with? What I'm going to do is I'm going to put up my put up the CTL website. Actually, that's a really good one to take a peek at.
Not yet.
Do you have another question? Was there a question that came up? Oh, there's a couple.
Oh, that site's under construction, so it's being built out.
Yeah, it is being built out, and I will show you kind of two sections that you can look at. We do have some content that's there right now. One of the things that's helpful, and just to kind of take note, is instructional technology. Up to this point, I think I may not be sharing the right screen. Let me see. Are you seeing it now?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So I just wanted to point out two things. First of all, this is the Center for Teaching and Learning. It's a grant-funded program that's actually going to be done in October. So we're somewhat moving in to use some of the resources on the site and add brand new resources. This is typically where you would find information at any institution you go to, as a Center for Teaching and Learning or Learning and Teaching Center, whatever they may call it. So as of right now, the section that we're currently overseeing is this professional learning section and the front page. So if you click in there, you will find some interesting information, and we'll be keeping this up to date a little bit more as we go forward. One other area that we do have information, but this is more of the nuts and bolts. If you click on faculty and staff, I typically go down to university services, and you can get to our information technology website. We did kind of take instructional technology completely out of IT, and we put it in the Center for Teaching and Learning. It makes a lot of sense to keep it integrated with more of the pedagogical aspects of it. So Denise is really in both worlds. She sits in the technology world, but at heart, she is as a teacher, she's a learner, she's a student. So that is her space, and we're really making sure that we have all the resources for education and professional learning there. So if you go to information technology, think that it's nuts and bolts. It's very much that, hey, I have an access problem. I have an issue I need to report. If you'd like to go, we did link over, I believe I have instructional technology. This links over to Center for Teaching and Learning. So you do have a pathway if you get there through IT. But what I just wanted to point out here is if there is an issue, if you're finding that you need a Zoom account or you need something, you can click that here, begin help ticket. It's going to take you right into our help desk system that will allow you to ask us any questions that you may have. So I really appreciate everyone making it in today's session. If there's additional questions that crop up, we can definitely answer those. I have a few more minutes that I can stick in the call if there's anything that somebody wants me to demo again. Otherwise, I'm going to stop the recording and then we'll go from there.